Okay, well, today we are going to review chapter 2, and then I also wanted to show you guys the project, bless you, that's in Cengage, kind of get you guys started on that. We won't finish it until after chapter 3, but if you go ahead and get started on the parts you can do now, it'll just give you a leg up. So you guys can go ahead and open it up too if you want. It's actually under Unit 3, Chapters 3 and 4. You'll see a Project 1. And it has the due date, March 27th there. So if you click on that, that will open in Cengage. So basically what the project is, we have a project part 1 and part 2, but it's all kind of the same project. So we'll finish project 1 after we do chapter 3 and learn about adjusting entries. But there's a lot of project 1 you can go ahead and start, and it's great practice as you prepare for the chapter 2 exam. So what it looks like, let me go into it here. What you'll be doing is basically going through the entire accounting cycle for 1 month. So here in a little bit, you can print off these instructions if you would like. It makes it easier to print the instructions. But basically, we have Kelly Pitney, who's starting her consulting business, Kelly Consulting, on April 1st. And she's already, we're going to assume she's logged the transactions for April 1st. So we're going to start in May, and you're going to journalize and post all of May's transactions. Well, we've already done that in chapter 2. So again, you can already start. But I wanted to show you a few specific things as you get started so that you start out the right way. There's tabs along the top here. Again, the instructions is one of the most important because it has all the transactions. And then if you scroll down, it has the requirements. Before you start journalizing, what you'll want to do is open up the ledger. So if you click on the ledger tab, and then there's that blue spreadsheet word, it actually opens up a ledger in Excel. Okay. And when I open up that Excel ledger, I want to click Enable Editing. And then this opens up to the worksheet, but down at the bottom you can click where it says Ledger to open up the Ledger tab. And they've already put in this nice little ledger for you based on this company's chart of accounts, which they also provide you. So here's the ledger, like cash, account number 11, and here's where you're going to put, all of your transactions from your journal that deal with cash. So, but the first thing you're going to want to do when I'm in Cengage here, under instructions, is it wants you to set up beginning balances because this company is in its 2nd month of operations. So there's some beginning balances from April. So what you'll want to do, again, in the instructions, if you scroll down, you're going to see a post-closing trial balance. Those are the balances as of April 30th. What you're going to do is you're going to take these balances and put them in your ledger as beginning balances. Okay? If you don't, then your ending balances will all be off. Okay? So step 1 will actually be taking, again, these post-closing balances from April 30th and putting them in as May 1st beginning balances. You'll only put balances on the accounts that actually have a balance. It's like dividends doesn't have a balance, just leave it blank in your ledger. Okay. The ledger is an Excel file, so you will want a way to save it. You can save to the computers in here, but you'll want, a way. You don't even have to get started on it today. So if you get started on it at home, just make sure you save it to your computer because you will keep that through project 2. Okay, so make sure you save that Excel file. If you open it in here and start in here, you can use Google Drive, to save your Excel file. You can email it to yourself, or if you have a flash drive or something, I can always help you make sure you get it saved. But again, what you're going to do is just actually set up beginning balances. So for cash, for example, it tells us the balance is $22,100. So I would put these beginning balances as May 1st. I think it's the year 18. and I would type the word balance under item. That's the only time you have to use that item column right now. And then I'm just going to put an X since it's just a balance. And then over in my balance side, I'm going to put 22,100. And you don't have to type the comma or the decimals, it'll format it for you. So you can just type the numbers in, okay? So then once you start journalizing, anytime you have, a journal entry that affects cash, you're going to put the debit or credit and then keep that running balance here in the ledger, okay? So you would do that for all of your accounts. Scroll down, accounts receivable, 5/1 balance, and then put in the 3,400. Okay, so you do that for all these accounts here. Once you have that ledger set up, then you can scroll back up again, or I recommend printing this off. And you're just going to journalize, starting with May 3rd, you're going to journalize all on page 5 of the journal, May 3rd through May 17th. Okay. And they provide you with the journal here. Okay. So you would just journalize the transactions, putting the date on the first line, and then the description, whatever account you're affecting first. So let's just see, for example, received cash from clients as advanced payment for services to be provided and recorded as unearned fees. Well, they tell us it's unearned fees, which is a liability. And we received cash. So I know I want to debit cash and credit unearned fees. So in my journal, I would start with my date, May 3rd of 18. I would start with cash since it's my debit, and I would debit it. How much was it? 4,500. 4,500.
So is this basically what we did in question 2?
Yes. Yeah, it's very similar to the homework. It's just kind of more, yeah. And so then I go to the second line and do my unearned fees and my credit of 4,500.
Are we going to go over any of those for chapter 2?
Yeah, we can if we need to. Yeah.
That whole last question.
So we debit cash and we credit unearned fees. We put the date on the first line, our debit and credit. We always list our debit before our credit. And we always have to have total debits equal total credits. You won't skip lines, you'll just keep going and you'll journalize. As you post those to the ledger, don't forget to put your account numbers in as your post reference, okay? So you're ready as of this point, again, to get started on these. It will let you check your work after you've done like page 5 of the journal. So after you journalize May 3rd through the 17th, you should be able to check your work and it'll turn red on anything that's incorrect. So yeah, you'll be able to journalize page 5 and 6 of the journal, so May 3rd through like the 31st, and post all of that to the ledger, and you could do the unadjusted trial balance after that, okay? So that's at the point in this project, that's like the time-consuming part of this project, so if you start working on it now, it will help you prepare for Chapter 2 exam, because honestly, journalizing, posting, doing a trial balance, understanding a chart of accounts, that's what Chapter 2 exam is about. So, if you get started with this and are able to get through a lot of it, I think you'll be more successful on the exam. Don't forget your homework's due tonight. But again, this won't be due until after spring break. But if you start doing the journalizing and posting and get that out of the way, once we start Chapter 3, the rest of it's a lot quicker. Okay, it's not too bad. It's a few more journal entries.
When it says on accounts, does that mean accounts payable?
It depends on what account, because if it says like customers on account, then it'd be accounts receivable.
Okay.
But if we bought something on account, then it's accounts payable. Okay. So yeah, you have your chart of accounts. These will be the accounts you'll be using. So you can always print that off as well, but definitely print off the instructions. Any questions on the project so far? Okay, I wanted to show you that. Like I said, great extra practice. Go ahead and be working on that excuse me, especially if you're finished with chapter 2 homework, it'd be a great way to kind of reinforce what we've learned so far. Okay. So then again, we are, your homework is due tonight in chapter 2, and then your test will be due by Tuesday at 11:55 p.m. And then don't remember to do anything else. Don't forget to do the chapter 3 adaptive learning quiz before class next Wednesday at 2. So that should be out, on Canvas and in Cengage. So the little, it's called chapter 3, the adjusting process. So make sure you do that. Take the test first, get chapter 2 kind of out of your mind, and then make sure you do the chapter 3, the adjusting process, adaptive learning quiz. They're only 10 points, but that 10 points adds up, to 70 total, which can impact your grade overall. So make sure you do that. And then for the rest of class today, I thought, I would open up questions for chapter 2 homework, and then we would just kind of talk about the chapter 2 exam a little bit, which, again, honestly, the bulk of chapter 2 exam is doing journalizing, posting, trial balance. Those 3 major things is what you'll basically be doing on the test. Okay. So chapter 2, you had homework questions? Okay. Chapter 2 homework. My numbers will be different, but we can kind of look at it too. Should be pretty similar. You said mainly on the last question?
Yes, mainly on the last question, but there is one. Okay, so question, oh yeah, you don't want to see. I guess question 6, it's like the very first journalizing in ledger.
Okay. Yeah, this one. October 3rd, the retail company purchase.
Yes.
Okay.
So on the ledger, when it says the balance, you put the balance for supplies and then you put the balance for accounts payable, and it asks for like a post reference. I've put in like every number I can think of.
You just put in a check mark if it's just the balance, which
How
should
do I
be.
get the check mark?
It doesn't drop down for you.
Yeah, the second one doesn't.
Oh, on accounts payable.
No. Like number where it says.
Oh, well, yeah. On the first line, you should, because it's a balance, you'll just put the post reference.
Right.
On the second line, it will be the journal page it came from.
It's
So
21, right?
let's see. No, those are the account numbers.
Oh.
So you would want to look on your journal. Like my journal is on page 91. See here where it says journal, page 91. So you would look at your journal and get your page number, and that's what you'll put as your post reference on the actual transaction you're posting.
Okay, so both of them should be.
Yeah.
So do we put a check mark or a number?
On the first line where it's a balance, so on your ledger, like for supplies, when it tells you to enter a debit balance of mine's like $21.50, you'll put a check mark on that first line because it's a balance, so type balance. But then on the second line, it'll be your journal page number because that's a transaction that you've actually journalized.
Okay.
So it's always a check mark if it's a balance. Or like an
How do I
X.
get the check mark?
It should drop down. Like if you,
Drop down.
it may be like,
Drop down what I've written before. Oh, yeah, yours is in there. I wonder if and this one, yours is, oh, because you're in the journal, that's why. In the journal, you would put the account number.
Oh, those
right in the ledger.
Is there a way you can go?
Well, you went on there to display the other stuff. It is weird though, mine you show.
Okay.
Yeah, it might be because you're on Mac, sometimes things look just a little weird. But yeah, like there, you would just type in your journal page.
And then that one would be the. Okay, great.
Yeah, thank you. You're welcome. Yeah, that is weird that you get those drop downs every time.
Okay, and then also on question number 8, with the T-chart thing.
Uh-huh.
I'm sure, like, I just barely figured out that if the whole entire circle, the green little circle on the questions, if it's not fully green, then it's not fully done, right?
Correct.
Okay, so
Yeah.
on number 8, I just don't know what I'm missing because it's not showing up as fully done.
Oh, number 7, you're missing your credit, and same with number 8.
Okay, so what do we do there if there's no?
There should be, see like number 7, you've got a credit there to account for receivables.
Oh, okay, and then number 8.
Is supplies.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So on the same question where it has the check mark,
Uh-huh.
number 6, the ledger, what would I put on the second one?
On the ledger still?
Yeah.
So you wouldn't put anything under item. You just put your date and then, your journal page. And then whatever, if you had, what you're doing, debiting supplies probably. So you would just put your debit for supplies there. Let me see what mine is. Purchase 3,900 of supplies. Okay. So I should have had a 2150 debit balance. That's what mine is on October 1st. I'm trying to make it where we can see it better. Okay. And then on October, what was it, 3rd?
Mm-hmm.
You'll put nothing in the item, then you'll put 91 as your post reference. And then I would put the amount of supplies I purchased, the 3,900, as a debit. And then here, under the debit, I would just add to get the new balance. So I would take my beginning balance plus my debit to get my new debit balance.
Okay.
So that's what mine would look like.
Those 2 numbers to answer that question.
Oh, no, it's fine. Okay, so they told me here, enter a debit balance of $21.50 as of October 1st. So I put the balance there as $21.50. And then I got my other balance on my instructions because it tells me on October 3rd, Regal Company purchased 3,900 of supplies on account.
Okay.
And so that's what I should be journalizing. I would then go into my journal, and do October 3rd, and I would do my supplies of 3,900. And that would be on accounts payable.
And then we add it together and put it under the credit on the balance.
It would be a debit balance.
And that's what I meant.
Yeah. Yeah, so on your ledger, yeah, you should have a debit balance in supplies. Yeah. Before we get to the last homework question, was there any other questions on any of the other homework? Okay. So then on question 10, it was the big one, right? Yeah. So you're doing a month's worth of transactions. You're journalizing them. You're posting them to the ledger. You're doing the unadjusted trial balance, like the whole shebang, right?
I don't really think it's as much as a question as like, I feel like I just need to see it more.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because I feel like we've done it in class, and when I'm in class, I fully understand.
Uh-huh.
And then I got to this, and I was like, I really don't know what I'm doing.
Okay. Now remember, you can always do those, like if I come up here on the toolbar, I can do a show me how, and it might be a good place to start. So it'll actually kind of walk you through the whole problem. My sound's not on all the way, but.
We're required to journalize each of the transactions,
So
post
you
them
can
to
always
the
watch
ledger,
that.
and prepare an unadjusted trial balance.
And then, I mean, did you get any of it done, or did you get most of it done? Or?
No, I literally stopped at that question because I saw it, and I was like, I think I'm still trying to figure out which is which, like what you do in a journal, what you do in a ledger.
Okay.
I think I get them kind of confused.
Okay, yeah, well, let's talk about that as we review, and then I will help you after we're done too, kind of get you started. But yeah, I think that's a good place. Then, does anyone have any other like specific questions on homework you want to go over? Any questions on, you guys okay? Okay, so the whole chapter really is, yeah, like journalizing, posting, and doing a trial balance. So again, for your test, I would really print off, okay, where's it at? That under Unit 2, the debits and credits PDF, print that off because that, is the role of debits and credits. So you'll have your assets increase on, the debit side and decrease on, or I'm sorry, yeah, increase on the debit side, decrease on the credit side. That whole will really help you.
That's a big thing you gave us, right?
Yes, yeah. So, and again, it's out there on Canvas if you lost it. And you can use that on the test. So that will help you. Again, we're doing the same thing in chapter 1. We're still analyzing transactions. So, if I say we, put cash into the business in exchange for common stock, we're affecting cash and common stock. So you're still identifying, every transaction is still identifying what two accounts are being affected. Now you just have to identify, okay, cash, it's an asset. So we know it's increasing, we need to debit it, okay? And then common stock is an equity account. It's increasing, so it will be credited, okay? So that's the first step in chapter 2, is just being able to analyze transactions. Again, we're really just taking it one step further from chapter 1. But if you want to make notes on this page and like list, asset accounts and common liabilities and things like that, that might be helpful. That way, when you go to test, cash, accounts receivable, supplies, equipment, all of those are assets, okay? That might be a good starting point too. So they're all going to increase on the debit side. So if you're comfortable figuring out, okay, that's what's happening with the transaction, your journal is your first step. The journal is always the first step in after you've analyzed the transaction. So the journal is just a record of all the business transactions. Okay. So journalizing is always, you start with analyzing, really is step 1. You analyze the transaction and then you're going to journalize it. So that's actually listing the debit and credit that occurred, So we would say debit to cash and a credit to common stock. Okay, so that's the first step, is using that journal. So that journal is going to be a listing of all the business transactions for the month, the year, it just continues on and on. Okay, so it's just numbered, like page 1, we put that first transaction. Normally we skip a line, in Cengage we won't. We journalize the next one and move on and on. Okay.
And with that, that's like when it's saying like Chris transfer cash from personal bank, and that's where we're going to be putting a debit and a credit for each one, right?
Yes, for each transaction. So yeah, the journal is going to show the debit and the credit, the account that you're debiting and crediting for each transaction. Yeah. And then once you've done that, once you've put it in the journal, you're going to post it to the ledger. So another word, post, post it to the ledger. And then the ledger, let me put back in the homework just so I can show you. So the ledger is a listing of all the accounts and their increases and decreases. So what the ledger shows me is the running balance of every account in my company. Okay. So I have to journalize the transactions first. And then I take those transactions and I post them into the ledger. So this is like the cash ledger. So we'd have cash, account number, you can't really see it. But here from the journal, I'm going to take from the journal. If I debited cash, then I'm going to show that debit to cash.
And this one will have like the original date that you're starting with, and then it'll say balance. That's where you put the check mark. And then you're gonna put your debit and your credit only in the balance.
For that first opening balance,
Okay.
yes. And then after that, like every time I increase cash, I'm going to debit it, and then I'm going to add to the running balance.
Okay.
So that balance in your ledger over here, think of this balance kind of like you would balance your checkbook. Whether you do it online or whatnot, you know, you have increases and decreases. So here's the specific transaction. You know, I increased cash, I received cash, so I debited cash. And then over here is showing, well, how much cash do I have? So for instance, on cash should always be a running debit balance because it's a positive amount. So every time that I debit cash, my balance goes up. And every time I credit cash, my balance goes down. Just like your account, you know, your checking account. Every time you spend money, your balance decreases. Every time you receive money, your balance increases. So that's what you want to show in this ledger is how the transactions are affecting each specific account. Okay.
And those, the original balance, they'll give you an original balance to start out with, and then
If it's a company that's been established, like I can't remember on this one if they do, because sometimes if they're a brand new company, you're just starting from scratch.
right.
And like I think this one, yeah, this one's establishing a business, so you won't have beginning balances on the homework probably. Yeah.
And everything that you take from this first portion is where you're going to put your cash, and then you'll debit it or credit.
Yeah. Yeah, so like this very first one, Chris transferred cash from a personal bank account to an account to be used for the business in exchange for common stock. So I would always start in my journal, you know, and I would journalize that transaction first. So yeah, I'd come in here and it was what, November 1st, and I debited cash, choose 27,900, and I credited common stock 27,900. So that's my journal entry. That's the main transaction that I'm logging. So again, in the journal, it's always that same format. You always list your debit first, and then your credit, and it's always indented a little bit, which Cengage does for you automatically. You don't have to type it in. Okay, so that's journalizing. So I would do that for every transaction. And then I would take this and post it to the ledger. So cash increased with a debit of 27,900 or 9,000. So I put my date. I don't have to put anything in item because this is cash. So the debit is a 27,900. So I didn't have a beginning balance. So now my balance is 27,900. And then your next entry here would be the next time cash is debited or credited.
Okay. But you have to do that for each account.
Yes.
Right? So
Yes.
this is only cash,
Yes.
and then you go down to the next one.
Exactly. So on that same transaction, I would find common stock and do the same thing. It was a credit of 27,900. And then I would show that 27,900 credit balance. And again, you'd want to do your post references, which On your ledger, that would be your journal page number, which I imagine is page 1. Yeah, page 1.
So all of them will be page one?
I think it tells you what to journalize on page 1 and what to put on page 2.
Oh,
So this one, November 1st through the 24th, all go on page 1, and then the 29th through the 30th go on page 2. And there's tabs. So there's page 1, and then here's page 2. So yeah, on my ledger for cash, I put my post reference as a 1. And you can always refer back to your chart of accounts to know, what to debit and credit. Cash is 11. So on my journal, I put in 11 because it came from account number 11.
oh, sure.
So your post reference on the journal is always the account number. And then in your ledger, it's just always the journal page number. You're just creating a cross-reference between the two. Okay.
You said for the journal, the post reference is always found.
Is always the account number. So you can find that in the ledger or in your chart of accounts.
And when we do the project, the journal will be in CityH, but the
Mhm.
ledger is the one that we have to open up.
Yes,
Do by ourselves.
on Excel. Yeah. But it'll be the same typing. You don't really know how. You don't have to know too much about Excel because you'll be typing just like you would in CityH. Yeah. So yeah, and you'll just always journalize first, then post to the ledger. So the journal is a listing of all the transactions, and the ledger is a list of every account and its running balance. And the reason that ledger is important is that at any given time, we know how much cash we have, how many supplies we have on hand, how much revenue we've earned. We know our balances. And that ledger, when we're finished with it, that's where we take ending balances to do the trial balance. Okay, so you'll want to be comfortable on the test, you'll want to know and be able to journalize, and know what posting is. You won't do a big problem like this, but you will have some. You'll do it kind of in your head. It'll be similar to your homework on the test. You'll do the T accounts. So be comfortable posting into T accounts.
And is that where it's already in there for us, and then we find like the difference between the two, or we're putting them in on the left or the right side?
You're going to be putting them into the T account. I think you had one like it. Let me see. Yeah, like this one.
Yes.
So yeah, kind of go over, which one is that? Number 7 on the homework. There they have you journalize it and then post it into the T account. So just know how to do that.
But it'll already be journaled, right?
Yeah, you'll have to know how to journalize it. I just can't remember if you just journalize it directly into a T account, if that makes sense. But yeah, they're going to give you transactions. So you're still going to have to analyze them. Yeah. Okay, so analyze transactions. You'll just be putting it into a T account instead of a ledger to save time on the test. So really just review this question. But then from there, also know how to balance a T account. So you can create like a little trial balance.
So I just did number 10, and I did all of the transactions, and it's telling me it won't check my work. This doesn't do it. But it's saying except for the post reps. I put the post reps in. Should I know that?
No, you should be able to check your work and still.
think we did page 2 first. And maybe they want you to do the page 2. Yeah, that's all I can think of.
Okay. So again, for the test, make sure you understand how to journalize a transaction. Okay. And then from there, post it into T accounts. Balance those T accounts so then you can get ending balances to do a trial balance. And the other hands-on stuff is just be able to tell me the type of account. You know, if I say cash, we know that's an asset. And then what side it increases on. Okay. So if you have that handout, that should be a pretty easy part. Okay. And then I would just know terminology. I would know what the journal is, again, what the ledger is, what posting means, what your post references are. I would know a T account, you know, left always means debit, right always means credit. I would know that the normal side of an account is its normal increasing side. So for like cash, since it increases on the debit side, that's the normal balance side of it. Okay, so the normal balance side is the increasing side of an account. I would just know that. And I would know that your chart of accounts is, again, just a listing of all the accounts, you know, in order by statement. So it's, you know, balance sheet items first and then income statement. So they're in statement order. So your chart of accounts is in balance sheet and then income statement order. You know, they're just assigned numbers, like assets all begin with 1s, liabilities begin with 2s. You know, you don't have to know the numbering, but it just kind of helps if you understand. A chart of accounts is just a list of the accounts used in the business. Okay. And then understand the trial balance, which again, remember when you're done, you know, you have these ending balances. The trial balance just lists all the accounts in chart of account order and their ending balance. And then you add them up. Yeah, total debit should equal total credits. So there's a lot, you know, I know in chapter 2. But really, yeah, journalizing and posting is the big stuff to get down. Okay. Are there any questions about the format of the test? Will be about the same. I think I gave you an hour and a half on it, so a little extra time on this one because I know the first one was a little time consuming. So you have an hour and a half to do this one. Any questions on what to expect? It's the same format, so you'll have multiple choice. It'll just, you know, be some really easy ones like the left side of a T account is what, and you'll say debit, you know. Hopefully. Yeah, you get those free points. And then you'll have some, again, where you'll be journalizing, posting to T accounts, creating a trial balance. And like I said, some of it will just be as easy as telling me cash is an asset and it increases on the debit side. So if you have that, you know, little sheet I gave you in front of you, then that question should be pretty easy to tackle, especially if you write down some extra notes. Okay. Yeah, you're testing from home, I know, so you do have access to notes and stuff. You're still timed, but feel free to use notes. I don't really have a problem with you using notes on the test. I usually let my students in class use some type of note on the chapter 2 test. So, you know, you obviously don't have time to look through the entire book while you're testing. But, you know, if you have your notes, what we've gone over in class, you know, the different account types, what a journal is, what a ledger is, what posting means, you know, that'll make it a little easier. And then you can really focus on the test on analyzing the journal entries. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Well, we do have 30 minutes. So feel free to stay, work on that homework. I'll help you guys with your homework if you want some help. Get started on that project and start journalizing and posting. I think it'll just give you extra practice that you'll just feel more confident on doing that on the test. I mean, honestly, the getting down the journalizing and the posting is the most important part in this class. Once you get that down, once you get that down, we'll learn new journal entries and things like that, but we're still that journalizing and posting is going to be throughout all accounting classes, okay? Alrighty. Let's stop this real quick.